All right, man. Let's start getting into the nitty gritty and why we got you on here.
Right?
Yeah. That title on the pod.
Yeah.
When did you start playing daily fantasy?
So I really got into it. I shouldn't say really, but I got into it around 2014, and my friend introduced me to it. So yeah,
me too.
Right. That's.
I feel a lot of parallels coming, except I didn't win a fucking $1 million.
Hey, it's a new year this year. Bro. Don't worry about it. So yeah, at the end of 2014, because our season long had just ended, and I still had that itch, like I still wanted to play. And my boy was like, "Oh, why don't you try this Fan Duel thing out?" And I'm like, I kind of had heard of it, but I didn't know like exactly what it was. And then he showed me on his phone. He's like, yeah, you could pick, players and play in these tournaments, 30K to first. So when he said that to me, like I looked at it and, I kind of did some research that night. Bro, I thought I discovered fire at that point. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm going to get into this. I'm going to make so much money. So that was right around 2014. And, I quickly discovered that it's not that easy. Like I deposited $100, and the first night, this was basketball because football had ended. Deposited $100, and bro, donut the first night. Lost every cent of that $100. Then the second night, I was like, all right, that's bullshit. Let me deposit another 100. Dude, same thing, donut. Right now, at that point, like my ego got to me. I'm like, this can't be right. So I started looking at what the top players are doing. I started looking at their lineups, and things started to make sense. You know what I mean? Like, all right, why did this guy play a backup point guard? And then I looked at my lineup, and I had rostered Carmelo Anthony, but at 655 he got scratched, and I never changed my lineup. You know what I mean? So these are like little things I started to learn.
NBA is also a fucking nightmare,
NBA is a fucking nightmare, bro. I always tell anyone that wants to get into NBA, if you can't be at your computer between 6 and 7, don't even bother because you're burning money.
No bullshit. I stopped playing NBA DFS because the Pacers played the Pelicans.
Yeah.
And the game got fucking rained out.
Yeah.
There was a leak.
NBA game, bro.
There was a leak in the ceiling. I
remember that game.
And I had a lineup on DraftKings that put up like 280 something points.
Yeah.
And my main guys were Oladipo at the time with the Pacers and Anthony Davis.
AD, yeah.
So they took up about like 40% of my salary cap.
Yeah.
I had a backup point guard put up the fire with like 40 points out of nowhere and shit.
Right.
I'm like, yo, this is, $50 single entry. I usually don't play that much NBA, but I was like kind of hot coming off of football. I'm like, damn, yo, this might be the one. And it got rained out, bro. I'm like, yo, I'm never playing NBA again.
That's the thing with NBA. If you take a 0 in NBA, you're drawn dead.
Yeah.
You can't take it. Like, it's not like football where you could, obviously it depends on how big the tournament is. Like, in the Millie, you can't have a 0.
Well, there was a guy on DraftKings. I don't know if it was this past year, but maybe 2019. He won the Millie Maker with a 0 as tight end.
I've seen that. But that's an outlier.
That's an outlier, yeah. He also, his stack hit, and combined they were like 4.8% ownership, so there's that too.
That'll probably never happen again.
Right.
Yeah. But, yeah, you take a 0 in NBA, you're drawing dead. So like back to like when that was around like the end of 2014, going into 2015. But I started, that kind of opened up my mind where like, all right, I got to learn about this. You know what I mean? There's got to be information out there about this. And, I started researching a little bit more. And then it was that summer of 2015, it was in baseball where I had my first big hit, which was about 15K baseball tournament. It was, I'll never forget, it was a Yankees Brewers stack that did it. And that was like my first big tournament that I took down. And then once I, hit that tournament, like it was off to the races at that point.
Yeah, once you get that initial hit, and you start playing with house money, you get a little more reckless, maybe play bigger contests.
You get a little bit more aggressive, but off to the races in a sense where like I said to myself, I could do this. You know what I mean? Let me do the research, let me put the time into it, and find out how to do it. And then that's what I did. And then, that football season, that's when the ad war with like Fan Duel and DraftKings started, where like every Sunday there was a Fan Duel or DraftKings commercial, like every 5 minutes.
Yes, yeah, of course. And I talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
The commercial setup was like McDonald's, DraftKings,
Fan Duel.
fucking Viagra, Fan Duel.
Yeah, bro.
Like, it was literally every commercial break. It was wild.
They spent something like $500 million on
advertising. And then that's how they got exposed.
Right.
And then in New York.
Yeah, the AG called wind of it. He's like, dude, what is this?
Y'all just gonna give out $1 million every week?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what's going on over there? Yeah.
And then you know the shutdown happened that following season. So when the shutdown happened, I took that as a chance to like really like hone my skills and kind of dive in, and because I knew it was going to come back. There's too much money in it for it not to come back.
Do me a favor, just pull that mic a little closer to you, or talk into it. No, that's fine. I just don't want to edit too much afterwards.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
That's better.
There was too much money in it to not bring it back. The city just got to figure out, all right, how are we going to be able to tax this, and then eventually it'll come back. And that's what happened.
That's exactly what happened, yeah.
That it came back that football season, it relaunched. But we had a solid 5 or 6 months of not being able to play. You know, I was thinking about let me drive to somewhere where it's legal or whatever. Like that's just too much work.
Yeah.
Right. So I just took that time to really hone my skills, learn about optimizers, learn about projection models, about ownership models, about algorithms that simulate the slates. And by the time that football season came around, I was, I had sharpened my skills a lot.
Damn, so that was like a blessing in disguise not being able to play, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it sucked because it was something that you look forward to every night.
Right.
But yeah, to your point, it was a blessing in disguise because I was really I didn't have to invest any money to learn. You know what I mean? So that's kind of it was, it was a good time to kind of sit back and learn about it.
Wow, that's fascinating, man. It's also true because you have all that extra time of not putting, because people don't understand about DFS. Because very similar to you, I got into it around 2014. My buddy Danny and I, Dom also, we go to Vegas.
Yeah. Now,
I've told this story before, so I'll just be reiterating. But if you're listening for the first time, my friend Danny finishes college, kind of doing apprentice stuff, and he's working at this clothing store, kind of doing embroidery and shit. We go to Vegas, and dude is just pulling out hundreds. I just go to him. I'm like, yo, bro, what's your deal, man? What's happening over here? Because I know you don't make. We always hustle, bro? We always complaining about money and shit. How you just pulling out hundreds at the pool party? He's like, bro, I play daily fantasy. I'm like, what the fuck is that? At the time, he was playing on this site called Draft Street.
Yeah.
Before DraftKings bought them.
Right.
He's like, yeah, man. He's like, yo, you know how it's yearly? It's just daily every day. You just put in lineups. Now he's really good
fantasy sports on steroids.
Yeah. And he's big into NBA. He's been to Fan Duel live finals and shit like that. He does really well in NBA. He's like, yeah, man, you should check it out. Now I'm thinking I start talking shit to him. I'm like, yo, I'm better than you in fantasy and whatnot. This is gonna be nothing. Play the first year, similar to you, bro. Deposit, wake up at 12:30, put a lineup in at 12:45. Yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. AJ Green, he's the best. Fucking Eddie Lacy at the time or whoever it was, whatever. Goose egg, nothing. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I end up losing $400 or $500. I'm like, yo, this shit is corrupt. Yeah, I don't know anyone fixed, it's fixed. It's these pros, 150 lineups.
Yeah, because your ego gets to you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm like, yo, I know my shit. I know football. I know matchups. I know all that. Next year comes. I was telling you this before. I start reading the matchups article. Evan Silva, who I think is the best mind in fantasy football, me personally. And
I agree, but I have a take on that, which we'll get into.
Tell me now. What is it?
I think that there's a lot of noise in DFS. A lot of noise. And what I mean by that is that that matchup column is incredible. I read it myself. I know exactly what you're talking about. But everything you read in that matchup column is already baked into the projections. So you could spend an hour reading, because that's a long-ass column.
It is,
It breaks down every single game.
Every unit, matchups, the whole nine.
But that's all baked into projections. So to me, I think your time is better served in looking at projections, looking at ownership, roster construction, game theory, trying to break down the slate, kind of reverse engineer the slate. So that's how I look at it. You know what I mean? But he's awesome at what he does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, but that's interesting though if you're looking at it backwards and from a different perspective, because a lot of it is projections, if not all of it is projections.
Yeah.
And it's also I know I like playing showdowns. I don't know how you feel about showdown slates.
I like showdown, but lots of times, even if you hit first,
You're splitting.
You're chopping it up with like 18
yeah,
people.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You know how much it would suck like if you had the nut lineup and it's a milli to first and you had to split that with like
my buddy Josh, the 20 entry
people,
the
like,
20 entry max.
Yeah.
$3 20 entry max for the Super Bowl. Came in first. 100K to first. Ready for this? Walked away with 1,600. Think about that, bro. Think about that.
Yeah.
You have the nut lineup. You're in first,
yeah.
and you split it. What is that? Over 150 ways, probably, if not more.
Right.
Definitely more, for sure.
Yeah.
More.
It's great. So I mean, I'll play it for fun, but I don't like. I'm not like too serious about it.
I do.
Because it's also. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's a completely different game.
It is,
and people like kind of treat it the same. But it's not. It's a completely different game.
Yeah. You have to throw that wide receiver 3 and captain. Yeah. Hope he can score.
Even like sometimes like I've seen a lot of slates where like the kicker was like the difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 2 kickers. Like you got to try to create lineups that are not going to be duplicated. That should be like your number one objective if you're doing showdown slates.
Yeah, because you only have 6 roster spots, and a lot of people are going to have the same guys. Like everyone's going to play Devontae Adams when the Packers play. They're going to play Aaron Jones. You know, so you also got to take a stand too. Right. You got to be like, you know what? I'm not going to play D-Hop tonight.
Right.
It's not that I think he's going to do bad. I'm just going to pray he puts up 3 points or 6 points, whatever. He does.
Like 80% ownership.
Right. That's the only way that you can really gain an advantage. But circling back, right, to Danny. He's pulling out all this money. He's telling me about it. The next year, I started doing a little bit more research. I'm reading the matchup column. I'm looking into more DFS sites. Start getting a little bit of success. Maybe profit like $1,500, $2,000. I'm like, all right, cool. 2016, the big explosion happens for me.
Yeah.
I probably won like close to 70 the whole season.
That's
and
awesome,
like you were saying before about you hit that 15K in MLB, and then it was like, what was the expression?
It's off to the races.
Off to the races. Yeah.
I'm about to shut this whole shit down.
So that was the same thing with me. Single entry $50. I came in second on a Sunday Night Football game. Never forget it. Lamar Miller. And hey yo Lamar, that's how that started, because there's a lot of sayings with my friends and I. They were playing the Texans. No, he was on the Texans. They were playing the Colts. So I win like 5,800, and I take out the 5K, and I'm playing with 800. Before you know it, that turns into close to like 60 between the two sites. Julio story, I've said ad nauseum. He's 8% ownership.
It's a good run, bro.
Yeah, 2016. I fixed my teeth, fixed my dad's teeth, did my basement, got
good,
a dog, got a new bed. Dude, I was 26 years old and I had a twin-size bed.
Yeah.
My mom was like, it's about time that you get a fucking adult bed.
Thank you, DraftKings.
I was like, thank you, DraftKings. So forever in my heart. And then after that, after 2016, I didn't play the same tournaments that I was playing that year.
Yeah.
I've probably dumped.
So you went up in stakes, or?
No, I was playing qualifiers.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm hell-bent like I'm trying to go to a live. Yeah, man.
That's on my checklist too, man. I want to do like at least one live final. I came close a couple of times this year.
Dude, I've finished second like 6 or 7 times.
Yeah.
Whether it's like prime time slates or whatever it is, and it's like, and those are the worst for your bankroll, right?
Right. Yeah.
You got to come in first.
You got to come in first, or I mean, second is like $100,
$100
or whatever. But yeah, you got to come in first because it's all baked into that top score. Yeah.
I've lost a teacher's salary worth in trying to get into qualifiers.
Yeah.
Like, it's bad, and that's all I've been playing since.
Right. Yeah.
Trying to get a live final.
I came close this year. In baseball, I was in first place in like literally like the last game of the night, and some Lux on the Dodgers hits like a home run in the bottom of the 9th, and this guy from like 5th propels to first. I was already making plans to go to Denver. Just like you're spending the money before it's in your account. I'm like, I'm gonna tell my girl we're gonna take a trip to Denver, go to a live final. Whatever. Yeah. But yeah, it didn't happen, man.
Damn. How do you feel about qualifiers?
I think they're negative EV.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You're going there to, obviously to try to win life-changing money, but also the experience of it. Because have you ever actually been to one?
I haven't, no.
I went to one as a guest, and it's a good time, man. It was in New York a few years back, and I went like as a guest. And it's a good time. Like all the executives from the sites are there. Like pretty much anyone in the industry is there. So it's good networking. But it's a good time. I mean, you know, you're watching sports. They have like the best of every drink, the best of every food. I mean, like Fan Duel and DraftKings, they do it pretty big.
Mm.
So for the experience of it is worth it.
Yeah, but it's terrible for your bankroll.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting, man, because that I think is the biggest appeal, because you see like 2 million, 3 million to first place.
Yeah.
And again, I've just dumped so much money into that, so I haven't played the same way.
Right.
I've shifted into MMA. I play MMA relatively big.
Yeah.
But with NFL, it's I stick primarily to single entry and 3 entry max. I like to tell people that's the best way to get your feet wet.
Right.
It levels the playing field, because if you're going 150 for 150 and I'm putting in 2 lineups,
right,
you're going to beat me every time.
Yeah, for sure.
More times than not,
right,
you're going to come out
in
a better situation than me.
But, and you're 100% right, but even like a lot of people think like, oh, you're putting in 150 lineups, like of course you're going to win, right? And it's not like that. Like there's an art to building 150 good lineups. Because you could build 150 really, really bad lineups. But if you want to build 150 like lineups that actually have a chance at winning, there's an art to it. Like it's not, you know, you got to be able to, you know, manipulate the optimizers, use projections, use ownership. It's not like you could burn through a lot of money really quick putting in 150 lineups if you don't know what you're doing.
What goes into a good lineup then?
That it's plus EV. That it actually has a shot at winning, you know, first place. Because in those big tournaments, especially like the Millie, 40% of the money is going to first place. You know, and then I think like if you get down to 10, it's like $1,000.
The payout structure is devastating.
Crazy. You know, it's not flat at all. So you got to build lineups that actually give you a shot to land in that, you know, top 1%. And then at that point, it's all variance. Like your objective is to build lineups that have a shot at coming in the top 1% of the tournament. And then at that point, like, look, the difference between first place and 20th place is usually less than a touchdown. It was when I won the Millie. I scored a 219.6, and I think 20th place scored like a 213, something like that. It was like less than a touchdown was the difference.
Damn.
So at that point, it's all variance.
Now, when you're building 150 lineups, do you personally, do you build around a core? Do you scatter? Like, what's your approach? Because me, when I do 20 entry maxes, not so much in the 3 entry max, maybe like 3 entry max, I'll lock in like 1 or 2 players at most. But there'll be favorite stacks that I'll have. So in my 3 lineups, like, all right, I'll do Ryan, Julio, I'll do Devontae and Rodgers, I'll do Mahomes and Hill, and then just interloop the guys throughout.
Right. Yeah.
When I do 20 entry maxes, I'll pick maybe 2 fighters that I'm 20 for 20.
Yeah.
I know some people feel different about that,
right,
locking in a guy.
Yeah.
Especially in the fight game. And then from there, I kind of mix and match.
Right,
so what is like your general philosophy?
It's very rare that I'll go like lock button on a player. It has to be like a very unusual situation. And it actually happened last year. You want to guess when it was? This is on Fan Duel, not DraftKings.
This is the week that you won?
No. This was a week where it made all the sense in the world to just have this guy in every single lineup. It didn't make sense to not have him.
I feel it was like Gio Bernard.
No, it was.
But because there was a Gio Bernard week a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So last year on FanDuel, there was one week where Drew Brees had been ruled out earlier in the week, right?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. And Taysom Hill was eligible as a tight end. Yes.
Right. Now, in a situation like that where his projection is 20 points, and mind you, on that slate, Kelsey wasn't on the slate, Waller wasn't on the slate, and I think the next highly projected tight end was Andrews on Baltimore.
Yeah.
So even if Taysom Hill hits his median projection, which is 19, 20 points, he's still going to lap the field.
Yeah.
So there's no other, unless Mark Andrews has
8 for 150,
right, which is really like an 80th percentile outcome, which is very rare. It made no sense not to have Taysom Hill. So in an instance like that, which is an outlier, that's when you hit the lock button and then just move on with your lineup.
Yeah, dude. I remember the Taysom Hill shit. That was crazy. Yeah. That was crazy. Because the one I remember was the Gio Bernard on DraftKings. He was 3K, and then Mixon had gotten ruled out. But this was after. Oh my God! It was the week. I remember now. It was the week I was telling you before, because the Sunday slate comes out before Monday Night Football. The prices.
Yeah, right.
And that was the week, dude. Fucking Joe Mixon, man.
Everybody's got a Joe Mixon horror
story. Man.
So, mine was very expensive, though. But
well, this one turned out to be pretty pricey for me, too.
Yeah.
But it was a Sunday, Monday slate. And I was playing the DraftKings GPP, like $250K to first. And I remember it was Bengals Steelers for sure. That was the Monday Night Football game. They were playing in Cincinnati. The Sunday night game had to be like Saints Packers or something of that magnitude where it was loaded with skill position players. Uh-huh. And no one was talking about the Bengals. No one was going to play Bengals. So I played Joe Mixon. I faded Lev Bell. I faded Antonio Brown at the time. And at halftime, dude, I'm winning like $173,000 at halftime. And I'm like, we were talking about counting money, printing money. I'm like, yo, I'm going to get my dream car. I'm going to go on this vacation. I'm going to go crazy. Maybe that first drive, he gets a concussion. And then on the ensuing drive, Le'Veon Bell, like, catches a 3-yard swing pass, tiptoes up the sideline, scores a 50-yard touchdown. And it just went, Because of that game.
Your dreams are shattered.
Because of that game, dude, I look at my lineups at 1 o'clock. What's the ownership? All right, cool. We got Devontae at 13%. This guy's at 14%. Mm-hmm. I don't open it until the end of the night.
Yeah.
I also, a little bit different from you, I play one lineup.
Right.
I was telling you, I write it on the whiteboard. So I have an idea of how good my team is doing.
Right.
But ever since then, I'm like, I'm not going to get my hopes up, man. Yeah. Until it locks, I'm not doing it.
You only play one lineup. Because I was going to say, you're leaving a little bit of edge if you don't use late swap. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people don't use late swap. But, I mean, one lineup, it's you don't really have to worry about that. But 150 lineups, at 3:30, you got to like really look at your lineups. Like, all right, does any of it make sense to late swap? And most people don't do that, and that's where you're leaving a little bit of edge on the table.
Now, do you think people don't late swap? And what late swapping is, for those of you guys that might not know, it's kind of self-explanatory if you hear the term. But it's like, say you have Devontae Adams going at 405, and he's going to be 60%. So you could just assume based on how the other lineups, if you're chasing,
right?
It's like, well, I'm in 5th. There's no way I could get to 1st because you got Devontae, I got Devontae.
Yeah.
All right, let me take a chance. Yeah, let me take a chance at MVS, right? Or like Alan Lazard. Yeah, it might kill me.
Right.
But
if you
I want a
that
chance
shot to win that first place, you have to do that.
Why do you think people don't do that? Do you think it's
they're just lazy? They're why they don't late swap?
Yeah.
It's just late because it's work. I mean, especially if you're doing it with 150 lineups.
Yeah.
It's because you're on a time crunch. Usually, like if you're gonna late swap, you're usually deciding by like 3:30, 3:45 before that 4:05 lock. So to go on, to go there and like look at your 150 lineups is like, all right, does it make sense to do it in this lineup? Does it make sense to do it in that lineup? It's a lot of work. A lot of people, to your point, just want to lock in at 1 o'clock and not look at it again until 7 and want $1 million in their bank account. And when it doesn't happen, they're like, oh.
Yeah.
Why not?
I also think it might be something where it's like mentally you're like, man, this was, your first thought is always your best thought is an expression you hear.
Yeah, because a lot of times it may work out the other way. Mm-hmm. You may have that player in your lineup and you late swap and you end up screwing yourself.
Yeah.
So
dude, imagine you do a late swap and it ends up burning you.
Yeah, it ends up costing you $1 million. That'd be crazy. But I've known people in the industry, not that I know personally, but that have late swapped. And because of that decision, they won the $1 million.
Oh, yeah. You always hear stories about that.
Yeah.
For sure. How do you let's talk about what everyone wants to hear, man. What was that Sunday like, you winning the $1 million?
Oh, dude, that's something I'll never forget.
It's
approaching a year.
Yeah. You said it was week 2 last year.
Week 2, September 20th of last year, week 2. Yeah, so crazy day. I was actually working that day. I my regular job, I show apartments in Long Island City. So I had built my lineups that I felt comfortable with. I wasn't able to build 150 that day. I was able to build 100 that I felt really comfortable with.
How early are you building your lineups?
So I start like around Wednesday with like a shell build where, I'll let the optimizer kind of run its course, but I'll use that to kind of get an idea of what the chalk is going to be. So then I'll kind of make tweaks off of that initial build. Let's say if all right, this player's chalk, I want to be under the field on him. I'll make that adjustment and then I'll run it again. So you're making dozens, if not hundreds, of tweaks and then rerunning it. So that process starts on a Wednesday.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then how many lineups do you have, say, Saturday night?
Saturday night, by Saturday night, the goal is to have my full 150 by Saturday night.
So you don't wait about inactives, actives, maybe?
I'll keep notes on who I think has a chance to be out, and I'll have my pivots ready. So if I know that
beautiful.
Yeah, if I know that this person's going to be out, what's my pivot? Who in that same price point can I globally switch?
Okay.
Because to kind of re-optimize that on Sunday morning.
It's too much stress, man.
Especially if you're going to wake up at 6 in the morning to do it again, then okay, fine.
Right, but if you're
waking up at a normal time, on a Sunday, 8, 9 o'clock, you're not going to have the time to do it. Not efficiently, at least.
Yeah, and also you're going to start panicking. You'll be looking at the clock like, fuck, man, I got another hour of this.
Exactly, man. That's stressful, bro. So I had the 100 lineups, and I was at work that day. So I remember that the game that I was targeting the most is the Atlanta-Dallas game. And not because I'm a homer, but I had the biggest total on the board, and I knew that a majority of the field was going to target the Packers-Detroit game because of what Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams did week 1. So I'm like, I think that I could get this game at a good enough ownership where it makes sense. And then I looked at all the projections for ownership on Dak, and
did you play Aaron Jones that week? Because I remember that was Aaron Jones
that was a difference maker for me.
That was the pivot off the chalk of Adams.
Exactly. We're going to get to that
in a minute. So I just want to show you that I've been doing this for years too.
Yeah, exactly. Spring. You know what you're doing. It's not your first rodeo. But yeah, so Dak was projected to come in at right around 10 to 9% ownership, which in NFL that's not a lot. Once you start getting into 20, 25, 30%, that's when a player starts to get a little bit chalky.
Yeah. I like to say 25 or higher is chalky.
Is chalk, right. Yeah. So Dak was coming in on every ownership model that I seen, Dak was coming in at around 10%. So I'm all right, I like the matchup. I even like the other side of it because the Cowboys defense was,
historically bad.
Last year. So I'm going to have a little bit of Matt Ryan and Atlanta stack. So I had every piece of that game. So I'm at work, and in my office, I have the Cowboy game on because I always watch the Cowboy game if I'm at work. I'm sorry. I'll always watch the Cowboy game at work. And then, I just got really busy at work. So, I'm doing showings, but I'm looking at the ESPN app and I'm kind of seeing what's going on. Meanwhile, dude, my phone is on fire, bro. Just ringing every 5 minutes. My friends are calling me, my brother's calling me, my Twitter feed is going crazy, and I'm like, dude, what's going on? So when I finally have a minute to sit down and look at it, I go back to my office and I open up the app, and it says Charlie Chase 21 first place, winning $1,100,000, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, this shit can't be real.
So did your friends all know that you won?
They were, because they were in the same tournaments, and they're seeing my name in first.
So that's why they blew up your phone.
So they're blowing up my phone.
That's dope.
So I'm like, dude, what the hell is going on? So anyway, I look at it and I see $1 million, and I'm like, this can't be real. I shut the app down, I close it out, and I reopen it.
That's something I would do. I'd be this ain't true, man.
I reopen it. So I reopen it, and dude, I'm still there. I'm still winning $1 million. So I'm like, dude,
real quick, are the games still going on?
Yes. Oh. So the Atlanta Cowboy game was the 1 p.m. game.
Yeah.
And that game went into overtime. So I got a few extra points in overtime as well. So when Atlanta muffed the onside kick, and the Cowboys recovered it. So I got a few extra points. So those games, the 1 o'clock games end, and at this point I'm getting off of work. All right. So I'm driving home, and I'm still in first place. So now I'm like, wow, is this really going to happen?
Do you have anyone going at 4 o'clock?
No.
Whoa!
My lineup was done.
Yo, that's mad stressful not having everyone chase you.
The level of stress that I experienced between 4 and 7:05 was fucking nuts, bro. So I'm heading home, and I see that I'm in first place. But now the 4:00 games are about to start.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at the lineups behind me, and 3 lineups have Arizona defense. Now that game hasn't started yet. Once that game starts, they automatically get the 10
points.
10-point bonus. So as soon as the game starts, boom, I drop to like 4th, and I'm like, fuck. You know, like I'm in 4th place, which is about like 30 grand or whatever. But you know, I mean, 30 grand is nothing to sneeze at, right? But
Right.
fuck,
Yeah.
you want a milli, bro.
Dude, that's the thing. I always say this shit. Like, if you were to tell me at 12:30, you'd be like, yo, you're gonna come in second, you're gonna win 100K. I'll be like, yeah, you fucking kidding me? That could alter a lot of shit in my life.
Yeah.
But come 5:30, if I'm in first,
And you got right.
and then I come in second and win 100K. Look, first world problems, weird stresses, but I'm gonna be a little hurt.
You're
like,
gonna be tight. Yeah,
fuck,
you're gonna
yo.
be grateful for the 100K, but fuck you. It's not every day you got a shot to win $1 million.
Yeah.
You know, so boom, I dropped to like 4th or 5th, right? So I'm like, all right, Arizona's playing Washington. You know, Arizona's defense is good, but it's not that great. Washington should be able to score 10 points. This is how fucking daily fantasy works. A Cowboy fan rooting for the Redskins, bro.
Yeah.
But so I'm rooting for the Redskins. I'm like, come on, man, do something, right? First half goes by, they got a donut on the board. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, are the Redskins really gonna screw me like this? So anyway, make a long story short, they score. So now I'm like 3 points from first, and then like towards the beginning of the 4th quarter, McLaurin catches like a 60-yard bomb for a touchdown, and like all those first place lineups drop, and it propels me back into first. So I'm like, wow, I got this in the bag. So I'm looking through all the lineups, and I'm like, all right, who could catch me? Who could catch me? Who could catch me? The only lineup that could have caught me was this guy that was in 6th or 7th that had Austin Eckler. They were playing the Chiefs that week. So I'm like, all right, Austin Eckler needs about like 9 points to catch me. There's like halfway through the 3rd quarter. Like I should be good. I'm sorry. They were in the 4th quarter at that point. I should be good. Bro, Austin Eckler starts catching balls, starts like, and I'm like looking at this and I start sweating. I'm like, come on, man. Don't tell me he's going to do it.
Jam a finger or something, man.
Yeah,
like, you
something,
know,
bro.
I don't
Like,
wish injury on anyone, but something to miss a couple drives.
Like, not even injury. Like catch like diarrhea or something, man. They're like fucking out for the rest of the game, whatever. So anyway, this guy's creeping up, and I'm kind of trying to not psych myself out. I'm telling myself like, all right, at the very worst, I'm gonna win 100 grand, right? But like we were just saying, like, nah, man, fuck that. I want the million, bro.
Yeah, when you're that close, I'm with you, bro.
So anyway, that game goes into overtime, right? And I'm up like 1.5 points at this point. The guy that has Eckler is in second. Casey gets the ball first. They go 3 and out. Goes to.
I remember
to the
this game
Chargers.
because this was the Herbert Tyrod Taylor.
Yes. So Chargers get the ball. First play, Eckler takes it for like 7 yards, right? And my 1.5 point lead goes to like a half a point.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, it's going to end here. And then like the second was like an incomplete to one of the wide receivers. And then on 3rd down, they tried to hit Eckler on a screen, but Herbert made a bad pass. I mean, it wasn't really a catchable ball. So they get off the field. Punt the ball back to KC.
They kicked the field goal.
They kicked the field goal. Game's over. Now, I still don't think I have it in the bag. You want to know why? Stat correction.
Yeah.
So I'm hitting refresh for like an hour. I'm hitting refresh for like an hour. My girl's looking at me like, dude, the games are over. Like, what the? I haven't told her at this point.
Oh, so she's wondering why is he still on his phone?
Yeah, she's like, so once it finally hit my account, like after like all the stat corrections were done with, and I see it in my Fan Duel account, $1,100,000, I say to her, I'm like, babe, I just won $1 million. She looks at me like, shut up, asshole. I'm like, no, babe, look at this. I showed her, and she just starts laughing. Like it was like, I don't know if it was like a nervous laugh or like,
a shocked laugh. Probably, yeah.
Mind you, she's about like 5 months pregnant at this point. So I didn't want to get like too excited because I didn't, God forbid something happened.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
So yeah, man. So that's how it happened.
Damn, what was like? You buy anything stupid? Anything crazy? You do
No.
anything?
I mean, Uncle Sam got his hands on it.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah. I did treat myself to a watch. Like I like watches, so I bought myself a nice watch and I bought my girl a nice watch.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you would want to have something that you could always look back at and be like, yo, I won
exactly.
the milli that week.
Yeah, like I want, that's that was part of it.
You didn't like quit your job or anything? You didn't want to do that?
No, because
I would have quit my job already.
Yeah.
I would have hit up my pops because I work for my pops. I'd be like, yo, that's a wrap.
I'm not coming to the shop.
No more eggs, dog.
Yeah.
So it's quiet.
I mean, my job is kind of an easy job, and I still kind of enjoy it.
Keeps you busy too.
Keeps me busy,
Okay.
So I haven't transitioned into playing like professionally, like full time. Maybe I'll do that in another. I have kids now, so I want to keep the benefits of the kids and stuff. So,
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Nah, man, that's fucking dope, dude. That's dope.
Yeah.
And then you were telling me how a couple weeks later, you had a chance at winning it again.
Week 6, man.
And now you're Joe Mixon.
My fucking Joe Mixon story. Fuck Joe Mixon. That's gonna be a hashtag somewhere. But so week 6, I remember targeting Atlanta. I targeted Atlanta. They were playing the Vikings, and that was the week that Dalvin Cook had been ruled out. So Alexander Mattison was like the chalk of all chalks.
Yeah.
So
I remember this too.
The way I look at a slate is like, all right, where's the chalk, and if the chalk fails, how do I benefit from that? That's how I break it down.
Maybe play the wide receiver in that game.
The wide receivers, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was heavy on Minnesota. I was heavy on Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, the run back with Julio. Julio went nuts that week. So I'm in first place again with like the 4:00 games, almost like going into the fourth quarter. Sorry, the 1:00 games going into the fourth quarter. So I remember having Joe Mixon, and I switched to the Bengals Colts game, and this was like towards like the beginning of the fourth quarter, where the Bengals had 3rd and goal from their 9, and I'm sorry, from the Colts 9. Joe Burrow rolls out to the right as the pocket was starting to break down, throws a fucking dart into the back of the end zone for Joe Mixon, and for some reason, like I still don't know to this day why this fucking dude decided to jump for a ball that was literally right between the 2 and the 8. I mean, he couldn't have thrown a better ball. He jumps, and the thing just bounces off like his knee or something, and he drops it. So that would have been the touchdown plus the reception, which is 6.5 points, plus the yardage, which is another 0.9 points. It's about a 7.5 point swing. Bro, I end up losing it by 7 points. I end up taking 6th. So instead of another milli, it was 10 grand. I mean, I did take first place in the rush, which was with the same lineup, which was $50K. So it ended up being about a $67,000 weekend. But that would have been another milli, bro. Damn. So fucking Joe Mixon, if you're listening to this podcast, you owe me 990 grand, bro.
Damn. I mean, if you win the milli again twice in 5 weeks, then you're probably quitting your job.
Yeah. At that point, I might quit, man, because that's like about a milli 2 clean.
Yeah. Fuck, man, that's so crazy. What do you think is the future of daily fantasy?
That's a good question, man. I think that it's just getting bigger and bigger.
More and more people are playing every year.
More and more people are playing it. And then a lot of other sports are being incorporated into it. And the sports are just blowing up. I think like a sport like MMA, like golf, like what else? NASCAR even. I don't really play NASCAR, but all these sports are getting super popular, and I think like DFS is part of the reason for it.
And you could tell by the prize pools.
Yeah,
now
they're getting bigger and bigger.
I remember when I first started playing DraftKings MMA, because my buddy Jared Gordon from Astoria, he fights in the UFC. Got like 8 fights in the UFC. Yeah. He's fighting in a couple of months. October 2nd is his next fight. He made his debut, and he was fighting a borderline veteran. I think the guy had like 3 fights in the UFC, got cut, and then his return fight was against Jared, but he was sort of a name. Yeah. And my friends and I were saying, let's play a lineup with Jared. He was like 8,400, which is borderline mid-tier for MMA DraftKings. And we're saying, let's just play him. and we all did like the $100 single entries. Jared legit was the top scorer on the slate.
Yeah.
Broke the slate, put up like $130, which was crazy. This was prior to the new adjustments they've made on the scoring, where now in the past it used to be significant strikes. Now it's total strikes, it's ground control and shit like that. And ever since then, I got hooked. I won like $800.
Yeah.
I told Jared's like, yo, never tell me that you bet on me, please, because I have enough shit to worry about now that I know that my friend
doesn't want that pressure.
Yeah, I don't want that pressure.
Yeah.
So the advertisements are all over the place.
Yeah.
Stadiums, arenas, on the floor, jerseys, right? Yeah. The canvas in the UFC. So it's becoming more popular. And also, I think the coolest thing about that is, man, some people don't want to give $300 in August and then have to wait until January to get paid in your yearly.
Yeah.
What happens if
instant gratification?
Yeah, what happens if you took Saquon Barkley last year?
Right.
And you play in a $500 league and he tears his ACL. You're like,
done,
all right, look, I know I could work the waiver wire, but whatever. You're at a deficit there without your first round pick. Yeah. And with the daily, you're not married to any of these players. Right.
Yeah.
You play the matchups, and it's just becoming more and more popular.
Every week, every day, it's a new puzzle that you got to try and put together.
Yeah, man. So I think it's still in its infancy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's obviously it's exploded over the last few years, but I think like we're, to your point, we're not even scratching the surface yet of how big this thing could get. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's but with that said, and with all the money being poured into it, you know, it's gonna, you know, people are gonna find a way like to make money with it. Like there's, you know, all these content sites now, like the tools are getting better. You know, you're playing against players that have like these advanced, you know, algorithms and you know, I mean, the crazy thing about it is that, and I don't want to scare anyone here, but if you really look at who wins in daily fantasy sports, I think the number is something like 7% of users win 90% of the money. So the chances of you like actually like making money at this, if you know you don't really work at it, are really tough. You know, but I don't think it should deter people from trying to do it.